Hey everybody, I thought I would shoot a quick video to show you some of the modifications I've made to my Ascend H12 kayak. I'm here with Porter. There's Porter. Not paying a whole lot of attention. And I want to tell you what I did. But before I get into the modifications that I made to add propulsion, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the kayak itself. As I said, this is an Ascend H12. So it's a hybrid. That's the H12, 12 feet. Sort of a combination of a kayak and a canoe. It's sit in, not sit on. One of the features that I really like about it is the storage. So in the front there is actually covered storage, hard covered storage. In the back there's storage with a mesh net. There are 3 storage bags included. One is there, one is on the other side, and one is in the back on the seat, so a ton of storage. There's also plenty of spots to mount rod holders or GPS or whatever else you'd like to add. The problem that I had with the kayak is it doesn't track particularly well because it's got primarily a flat bottom. There isn't much of a keel on it at all, and also it's really slow and it can be difficult to paddle. So the way the problem that I was trying to solve was, how do I get propulsion to get me out to where I want to fish and then use the paddles to get into the fishing spot quietly? Here's what I did. I bought a Minn Kota Endura 30-pound thrust trolling motor. And my first attempt was using the rod holders and a cutting board that I chopped up as a means of mounting the trolling motor. The problem with this was it didn't steer very well. It was actually really difficult to steer, but it was also kind of difficult to get to because as I'm sitting in the kayak, I'm reaching behind me on my left side and it just didn't work very well. So I scrapped that idea, went to YouTube where you guys are right now, and noticed that some people had actually mounted their Endura on the back. There isn't a transom on this particular boat or kayak, but I made one, as others have. I think I've improved the design a little bit though, based on some of the other videos that are out there. The way that I mounted the Endura to the kayak is I bought a strut from McMaster Car. I also bought some strut clips for mounting it to the kayak itself. I bought these end caps because there can be some sharp edges on those. And that's how I mounted the trolling motor itself. But I pulled the tiller head off. So the electronic controls are no longer on the trolling motor itself. I extended the wires from the tiller head through this 1.25 inch vacuum hose down through this fitting. I don't even know what this thing is, but I saw it online and I thought it was pretty cool, and it's an interesting way to get the cables through the kayak, through the top of the kayak. So the cables are coming through that fitting, running along the side. They're catching power on the battery here, and they're going into the front. I'm going to walk around here. They're going into the front to this control that I put together. So this is a 4x4x2 enclosure that I got from Depot, and this holds the brains that were in the tiller head from the Endura. The knob on the control is a ball from a bungee cord. I'm not sure where I got the other plastic piece. I used a Brother label making machine to make an indicator of the 5 speeds forward and 3 speeds in reverse. And that's how I control the trolling motor, which I can very easily do while I'm sitting in the boat with my left hand. I'm right-handed, so I'm typically going to be holding the rod in my right hand, fishing right-handed. It just works really well. Now you might wonder, well, how in the heck do you steer this thing? Okay, so I put some eye bolts on the back of the shaft, and I ran paracord all the way up to the front. Hope you can see this. So those two knobs are where the paracords are tied in. And if I want to steer from the seated position, it's just a matter of pulling this to go that way, or pulling this one to go the other way. That's how I steer. That's the propulsion. A little bit about the battery. It's a 12 volt, 30 amp hour deep cycle marine battery. You don't get a lot of life out of it. So the other thing that I did was I rigged up a 12 volt connector that I can hook up to my Jackery solar powered generator that I also take along. I'm not showing that in this video, but it's yet another way of adding additional power to it. The way that I fish this boat, I use the trolling motor to get me into spots or get me to a spot. But once I start approaching fish, if I'm sight fishing, I shut off the trolling motor and then I go in using the paddle, kayak paddle. Or is it an oar? I think it's a paddle if it's a kayak. You can see there's a dolly. That's how I transport it. It's fairly heavy, so it's a little difficult for me to get it into a vehicle, to take it to a boat ramp or whatever. I live on the water, so it's convenient if I want to put it in here. But if I want to transport it somewhere, it's a little bit difficult. But this is a really functional fishing rig. And it's quiet. It's relatively fast with the trolling motor on, let's say, 4 or certainly 5. So it works really well. Hey, I hope that you found this video useful. And if you have any suggestions or comments, please get a hold of me with the link at the bottom. Thank you.